So we have our next senior project presenter. We had one earlier this morning. We've got Dugan is going to present next, and then we've got another one in about an hour. If you want to stick around for that, you're welcome. But I understand you got some family here. Dugan, you might take just a moment to introduce the rest of us to them.
Okay.
And then you can introduce your project.
Well, the person in the blue shirt is my mother, Andrea Lipp, and one in the pink is my Nana, Kathleen, and then one in the black is my grandpa, or Papa Ted, and my sister Ashley is here.
Welcome.
My name is Dugan Lipp, and my senior project was over Laravel, Linode, and web development. I'd like to first take this time to thank everyone for coming. I know it's busy schedules and everything, but I'd just like to say thank you to everyone. This is the Computer Information Systems website. This is what it looks like now. It's got like the internship, create a user. It's just what we use for all stuff within the CIS department. The main thing that we use it for though is we sign in and we can keep track of logs, like internship logs, like our hours or whatever we're doing throughout school. And also the PC logs are for like troubleshooting hours. And this right here is me SSHing into the server. The server is actually held in, I believe it's Georgia, and it's owned by Linode, and we pay an X amount of dollars a month to have cloud hosting services with them. And as you can see, we have a couple of different images already there, and right now we have the latest one. But my project was basically just to get a new website up for the CIS department using Linode and anything else that I had. This is some graphs from Linode. As you can see, we went down one day. I had to fix that. So yeah, I had to research a framework that could be used to replace the existing computer information system department's website, build the website, and use to replace this website, and then implement the website on Linode. So the framework I chose to look at, there's a lot of different options. You could go with ASP.NET, Laravel, KPHP. There's a lot of different frameworks out there. People use frameworks now mostly for web development because it has all the packages already there. You just install it. It's got all the classes, everything that you need, and that's what we were kind of looking at, was more of a framework design. Laravel is a free open source PHP framework, and the Laravel is a model view controller, an MVC framework. This is similar to ASP.NET. The reason I chose to use Laravel, it's free PHP, which is currently what we have now. The website now is actually CakePHP, so it was kind of similar. It has great support. There's a lot of documents, videos, anything that you need. A lot of people use Laravel, so that therefore they post a lot about Laravel, so you can easily find what that error message is or something like that. It's a very popular framework to learn. The hardest part about a framework is actually learning it though. It's got a really hard learning curve. So that's what I spent most of my senior project time, was actually just trying to learn Laravel. And this is the logo for Laravel, and this is what the root directory of Laravel looks like. You have the app directory, and that has like your controller in it, and resources has your views. And what an MVC is you have model view controller. So basically with the user involved, the user uses the controllers, they use that website, and that's what makes the website functional. Then from there, the controller manipulates the model, and then the model updates the view, which is what the website is. It's what the user sees. So that's kind of how an MVC framework works. And that's just the default page for Laravel. I used GitHub to keep track of my version control. It was kind of important with me because I was moving from one piece of equipment to another piece. Also, for future reference, if someone in the department needed to update the website or try to work with the website, they could easily just download it from GitHub, and they'd have all the code. They wouldn't have to SSH into it. It'd be really simple to use. I like subversioning. I created an account using the department's Gmail. That way I wasn't using my own personal one. That way everything was with them when I left. Repositories are just, and when you make an account, you can create repositories, and repositories are just places to store code. That's basically what you can use those for. Then you can pull down the code using commands and push them back up into the repository, so it's easy to pull it back and forth, and multiple people can work on with GitHub. You can have someone working on the views, while someone works on the controllers, and it all just kind of works together. GitHub also has a desktop app and is used by command line. So this is kind of what the GitHub looked like. This is on the website, this is the repository, and anyone can clone this down and work on it as they wish. This is the command line over here. And that's what I used. I didn't use the desktop app, I just used the command line the whole entire time. And then for another thing that we needed for Laravel was we needed an administration panel somewhere. Somehow Ms. Todd and Dr. Nelson could manipulate users and add users and create users. So I looked throughout a lot of different admin panels. Some of them didn't work with the newest version of Laravel. The Laravel I used was 5.7. So the administration panel that I chose was Voyager. And this had a way to manage users and add content and do stuff like that. Voyager was, like I said, the only one that was with 5.7. You could also manipulate the database within Voyager, which I thought was kind of handy if you actually needed to. I mean, a lot of times you don't have to manipulate the database. But this is what the administration panel looks like when you open Voyager, and this is where you can update the database. As you can create breadcrumbs, which breadcrumbs stand for build, read, edit, add, and delete, I believe. And that's the Voyager logo right there. But I used it, I kind of started working with it towards the end, and then about halfway through as I started messing around with stuff, things started to crash again, so then I was having to rebuild it, and constantly that's kind of the whole situation has been finding errors, fixing those errors, and then rebuilding. So that was Voyager. And in order for me to get Laravel to work, I had to have Apache, MySQL, and PHP. I was running on Ubuntu 18.04. And Apache is just a web server. So once you download it, you can use it to host your website. MySQL is the database I chose. It's a free open source website. And actually when I downloaded Laravel, it automatically, I went in here and I created the CIS-HLGU database. And then when I created Voyager, it automatically added all of those tables for me with the users. So that was pretty handy. It was kind of nice to have something just build itself for you. I also started out with virtualization. I used Hyper-V because I was just trying to get a development part ready. So like started out with CentOS, and CentOS didn't really have the best support for what I was working with. So then I went to Ubuntu because everyone in the Linux world knows Ubuntu basically. So I started out with Hyper-V. Well, then once that was, I wasn't really getting anywhere with that. I switched to Ubuntu and switched to a server. We had a PowerEdge R710 there. So I used it in order to work on my development site there. And the current status of it is I have Laravel working, I have the Voyager ready, and I spend most of the time either finding errors or trying to learn Laravel. So I didn't get as far as I wished. At the beginning of the semester, I was hoping to get it all on Linode and getting it up and running, but I do have a quick example of it right now, which I'll show you all. This is kind of what the CIS HLG website looks like. It looks like the basic default CIS HLG, but I have added the tabs for the internship, the create user, the remove user. I have started that. Haven't got the views done with them yet, but there is a tab over here for GitHub, which goes straight to the GitHub account. If you go to /admin account, it will take you to here, and then the default admin I have right now is admin@admin.com, just for the time being. So this is kind of what the back end of the website looks like. This is where, as an administrator, you could assign roles to users. So I have a couple users here. I have a standard user and a student user. But as we would go, each student would get a user account. You can create users there. There is a media spot where you can upload media. That's kind of where I was thinking maybe the internship logs could go, but I believe you could also create a controller and a view for that. But yep, that's basically my whole presentation. Any questions?
On the day that you showed us on the graph where it crashed and you had to fix recovery, did you cause it to crash?
No, I actually didn't cause it to crash. Ms. Todd and me both looked at it, and we couldn't really figure out why it crashed that day. It just kind of turned off and tried to turn back on and never booted correctly. So I ended up having to go into Linode, turn back on the machine, and then the website still wasn't coming up, so I had to go back in and restart Apache, the Apache web service. So after that, the website came back up just like it should have. And it's been up since then.
So what you have hosted and what you're showing, where is that at the moment?
Oh yes, I'm using TeamViewer which is an application that I can use to remote back to my machine when I get a desktop app. So this is my Ubuntu server right now in the lab, and right now it's just, I have a I have it up on Firefox, and then in the background you can diagnose it by running it through the command line. I had to start the Laravel development using sudo php artisan serve, and from here this is where I can diagnose and see what errors I have. Like I think just a couple days ago I noticed that I had an error on some lines of code, so I saw that there's an error, went back, looked at what the default was, looked what I needed it to be, and I changed it, and then now here we are working.
How many errors do you think you had to troubleshoot through the process?
Quite a few. It was at least, every time I worked on it, at least a few, like 2 or 3 every time.
So is this framework errorsome, or just was it that difficult?
I think it was just more that I just hadn't really learned it all the way, and it's still very hard to learn, like a framework in general. So I think that if I had more time to spend on learning Laravel, or I knew it before, it might have helped me out. I don't really think it was really, it's Laravel's fault. I think it was more that I just needed to try to learn it a little bit better.
How many hours do you think you worked total?
I had 81 hours logged, but I believe I logged more. I believe I worked on it more than that, because with a project like this, you're constantly always thinking about it, and there's also times where you're researching errors or messages, and at the time you don't log those, so those are hours that just go away that you don't get to log. But I was constantly thinking about this project throughout the whole semester.
Do you think? Oh, go ahead.
Does the framework have? I know like the old CIS website had like a lot of custom stuff made to do some of those functions, like create user and all that for the website. Does this framework already have some of those functions built in, or you just have to call them, or is it you still have to do a lot of custom work on this to get it paired with the website?
I went right after I got Laravel working. I immediately started looking for a panel to go try to find. So I found the Voyager one, and that's kind of where I went with that. I haven't really seen it. I'm pretty sure Laravel probably does have some sort of administration panel, but this is, everyone on the internet was acting like you need to go get an administrator panel, and this was one of the top ones that I found.
So what steps have to be done to carry this project further? If you pass this off to someone else to pick up where you're left off, what are the next steps?
next steps would be to get users put into it and to add the views and the controllers for the rest of it, for like the internship part, for the logs, anything else that has to go to the website, the views and everything will have to be put back in there.
Do you think this will load nicely onto the live server?
I believe it will. I mean, it's Ubuntu and it's PHP, that's what we already have, so I can't see any errors with it already going on the server.
Except I think it was smoothly as you expect.
Yeah.
What's the biggest takeaway that you've taken from your project?
The biggest takeaway I've probably taken from my project is that I will constantly be running into errors, and there's a lot of times when you see errors like on the command line and you don't really know what those errors mean, a lot of times you just really want to quit, and you can't really do that in the IT field. You have to keep going, and you have to try to find out what that error is, and that's probably the biggest takeaway, is that no matter what, you really just can't quit on a project. You have to get it done.
So are you pleased with the progress you made?
Yeah, for the most part, yes. I wish I could have got it to Linode, and I wish I could have got the views done, but yeah.
Clearly you did this because it was a senior project, you needed a project
Yeah.
for this class and all. Do you think you will personally use, either professionally, or just personal use? Will you use this, or is it just something you learned in class, for class? And
Maybe I will use the web development part, but I'm not really sure if I'll use it professionally like anytime soon. The experience I got working with a framework, I'm pretty sure I could use with anything. But I mean, besides working on it as like a side thing, just trying to learn Laravel, because I still would like to learn more about Laravel. I feel like I'm not exactly the most professional at it so far. But yeah, I believe I would like to pick it up like personally, but I don't know about professionally at this moment.
Is a senior project like this something every computer student should have to do?
Yes, I believe it was a good experience. I believe that it was good to have a project that you were in charge of and you needed to get it done. And I just think that it was a good overall experience for me.
You smiled funny when you started to answer that question. Why?
Because about a year ago, I would have told you no. But now I've experienced it and it's better.
well, now that you've had to do it,
Yeah.
everybody else ought to have to do it too.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You want everyone else to have your pain, right?
Yeah, might as well.
Had you ever worked on a framework before like this?
The only other framework I ever messed with was we had web development 2 years ago, and we worked with ASP.NET on using Visual Studios, and we did it in C#, which I already had prior experience from another school, so that was nice to have that experience. But yeah,
And if I can quote you from back then, it was awful.
it was awful. Yeah, I remember staying here a lot of times at night working on it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well,
Anyone else?
all right. Well, thank you all for coming. It's been a pleasure to have such a large audience today. I first didn't think we'd have such a big audience, but it was nice. So thank you all.
If you'll take time to fill out an evaluation form and leave it with us, you're welcome to visit Dugan